In California, haunted house performer Morgan Fowler, known as Trickster the Clown, spent years grooming teenage volunteers before convincing some to abandon school, distance themselves from their families, and live under his control. Investigators said victims were forced to sign contracts and obey strict rules, as Fowler built a cult-like following around himself. Authorities later uncovered evidence that multiple minors had been sexually abused inside a dungeon-like room he had constructed inside his garage. The investigation identified 18 victims, and Fowler was sentenced to 215 years in prison. In 1975, 17-year-old Leslie Whittle was kidnapped from her home in Shropshire by serial killer Donald Nielsen. He blindfolded her, took her to a remote sewer shaft, and chained her by the neck while demanding a 50,000-pound ransom from her family. When the ransom exchange failed, Nielsen abandoned her alone in complete darkness and never returned. Weeks later, rescuers found her body still hanging from the chain. Investigators concluded she eventually died from hypothermia and starvation after being left alone underground. Nielsen was later convicted of her murder and sentenced to life in prison, remaining behind bars until his death in 2011. Before becoming famous as Dracula, Saruman, and Count Dooku, Christopher Lee witnessed the last public execution in France. In 1939, while visiting Paris as a teenager, he joined a crowd gathered outside a prison to watch convicted serial killer Eugene Weidman be executed by guillotine. Lee later recalled the atmosphere as disturbing, describing spectators climbing onto roofs just for a glimpse of the execution. Because the crowd became so unruly and the spectacle was described as shameful, the French government banned executions immediately following Weidman's death. During the Chechen Wars, Surgeon Kasan Bayev was reportedly the only doctor serving nearly 80,000 civilians in parts of war-torn Chechnya. As artillery strikes and bombings flooded makeshift hospitals with casualties, Bayev often worked for days without sleep, performing amputations, emergency brain surgeries, and other life-saving procedures with little anesthesia and makeshift medical tools. During one particular 48-hour period, he reportedly carried out 67 amputations and 8 brain surgeries. Refusing to choose sides, he treated wounded Chechen fighters, Russian soldiers, and civilians alike, leading to both sides accusing him of helping the enemy and threatening him with death. Here's a video showing exactly what not to do during a grease fire. I don't know if this is a moment of true horror or true stupidity. Instead of standing around like deer in headlights while the fire kept growing, the solution here was actually pretty simple. The obvious first move should have been turning the burner off immediately. As long as the heat stays on, the flames keep feeding. Immediately after that, they should have grabbed a larger pot, a metal lid, or even a baking tray and covered the pan completely. No oxygen means no fire. You don't throw water on it, you don't move it, and you definitely don't dump it across the kitchen. What ends up happening works out purely by luck, not because it was smart. Dumping a burning pan can spread flaming oil everywhere, and that's usually how small kitchen fires turn into house fires. Grease fires look chaotic, but the solution is simple. Kill the heat, cover it, leave it alone. This was the moment TikToker Hannah Viverette was filming a dance video inside her second-floor apartment in Hagerstown, Maryland, when a man suddenly climbed onto her balcony and entered through the door.
Please get out of my apartment right now. Please get out of my apartment right now. Get out. Get out. Hello?
Hannah later said she recognized him as someone she'd seen watching her from a truck outside her building on multiple occasions. She also said she was terrified because the man kept his hands in his hoodie, making her fear he was holding a weapon. She acted correctly by running into the hallway and yelling loudly to draw attention, which luckily appeared to scare the intruder off. A neighbor then led her inside their apartment where she was able to call police. Police identified the suspect as 36-year-old Angel Moises Rodriguez Gomez, who was charged with burglary and stalking. He was later released on bond and taken into ICE custody. This was the moment a 5-year-old girl was attacked by a raccoon while waiting for her school bus in Connecticut. The animal suddenly bit into her leg, refusing to let go as she screamed and kicked. Hearing the screams, her mother ran outside and grabbed the raccoon with her bare hands, prying it off her daughter. She held on to the animal and restrained it as her daughter ran inside, keeping control of it while making sure another child nearby was no longer in danger. Once she was certain the situation was under control, the mother yeeted the raccoon away, ending the attack. The girl suffered multiple puncture wounds to her leg, though doctors later said her genes likely prevented far more serious damage. Raccoons almost never attack people, especially during daylight, and because of the animal's extreme aggression, doctors feared rabies exposure. Both the mother and daughter were required to undergo emergency rabies treatment, but they eventually made a full recovery. This was the moment a man turned a robbery attempt into an instant retreat. Security footage shows a group of thieves pulling up to rob him while he was pumping gas, but instead of freezing, the man immediately sprayed them with the gas hose, forcing them to flee. Gasoline can be extremely irritating to the eyes and skin, causing intense burning, tearing, blurred vision, and temporary blindness. Being soaked in fuel also creates a serious fire risk, making it incredibly risky for attackers to stay close or continue the assault. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, here's a clip of a tarantula walking on the surface. Some species of tarantulas are able to stand and move across the surface of water, thanks to a combination of their light body weight and the tiny water-repellent hairs that cover their bodies. These hairs trap air and increase surface tension, allowing the spider to distribute its weight without breaking through. When threatened or escaping predators, tarantulas can briefly run across lakes, streams, or flooded ground, giving the illusion that it's literally walking on water before climbing back to safety. That is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Here's a friendly reminder of why you should always lock your doors no matter what. This disturbing ring camera footage shows a disheveled woman wearing a white dress wandering through a residential stairway in the middle of the night while holding a knife in her mouth. She paces back and forth, systematically trying apartment doors, stopping at each one to see if it's unlocked. When she realizes they're locked, she bends down and checks under the doormats, clearly searching for hidden spare keys before moving on to the next door. She even stares directly into the camera while moving from door to door, seemingly unaware or unconcerned by how terrifying she looks. Still armed, she walks up the stairs to another floor and continues scanning hallways, before reportedly lingering outside more apartments as the video cuts off. Her appearance, combined with the fact that she was half-dressed and carrying a knife in her mouth, made many people fear that she wasn't simply trespassing, but was potentially on drugs or mentally ill while actively looking for someone to hurt, showing how close a single unlocked door can come to turning into something far worse. This was the moment a mermaid performer was attacked by a Chinese sturgeon during a live aquarium show. The performer, Maria Zelenina, was swimming inside a tank at Xishuangbanna Primitive Forest Park when the massive fish lunged forward without warning and pulled her head into its jaws as spectators watched in horror. She fought free underwater and surfaced in visible distress with her goggles ripped off, suffering from facial bruising, swelling around her eye, and lingering pain that affected her vision, later requiring medical treatment. While there are no confirmed cases of a sturgeon killing a human, the species can grow over 10 feet long, weighs hundreds of pounds, and has powerful jaws capable of crushing bone, meaning a sustained bite or loss of air underwater could easily be fatal. Here's a clip showing the importance of being aware of your surroundings at all times. In the video, a family is unloading their car in what many commenters believe to be a South American country like Argentina. Before going inside, the woman immediately senses something is wrong when a car pulls up directly in front of her. Without hesitation, she runs inside and locks the door just seconds before the men can reach the house. With no access to the home, the men quickly grab items from the family's car, get back in their vehicle, and speed off.